What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel. It is time to give you my upset alert games as we head into week number 4 of the 2024 college football season. And before I get into my upset alert games heading into week 4, let's look back at my upset alert games from last week. Did not have any upsets. Not a single upset happened out of the 8 games I did choose from last week. It was a quiet weekend in week number 3. We did see some upsets happen, but some of the upsets that I put on the video, they did not happen whatsoever. So now looking at week 4, we got a bunch of big games coming up this weekend, and I think we could see a lot of upsets play out. And how this upset alert video works, what we do is we take 8 games total, 4 games each, and we choose 4 of the games that are most likely to be upsets and then 4 games that are most not likely to be upset. And in order for me to call it an upset alert type game, the spread has to be in single digits from 1 through 9. If it's in double digits, that game is not considered to be an upset. And I just do top 25 matchups and then top 25 versus unranked matchups just to make more sense. And whoever that highest ranked team is on upset alert here for this weekend. So let's go ahead and get in my upset alert games heading into week 4 for the 2024 college football season. We will start from the least likely and work our way to the most likely upsets here for week 4. And we'll start here with NC State versus Clemson. This game will be at noon Eastern time on Saturday on ABC. Clemson favored by 20.5 points, and the over and under is at 48.5. That's a pretty high spread there for a conference game. Clemson coming out of a bye week this week. They looked really good against App State a couple weeks ago, and that offense really showed why they could be a really dangerous offensive team a couple weeks ago. They did not obviously show that in the Georgia game because Georgia obviously was very, very good. But Clemson here, they had the home field advantage in this one. NC State, it's been a pretty up and down start to this season for them. Did not look great against Western Carolina, and they had that blowout loss to Tennessee a couple weeks ago, so NC State's not been having a really good start to the season. And then last week really just wasn't a big win for them either. So yeah, NC State might be in a little bit of trouble this year. I think they're probably going to struggle in this game. Clemson, they're going to try to put as much points as they can here on this NC State team. But you look at the over and under, it's at 48.5. They're kind of predicting this one to be a low-scoring type game. Clemson, though, is favored by 20.5, so you kind of expect Clemson to win this one by like 27 points, but you never know. We saw Georgia struggle against a Kentucky team that, had some bad games, of course, or actually a bad game against South Carolina. And, Clemson probably could be that next team, but I don't really think it's going to happen. Clemson definitely the more talented team here, and they overall should be, able to, take care of business in this game because they're playing in Death Valley. But again, Clemson's favored by 20.5. And again, I don't really see an upset happening here, but this game will be at noon Eastern time, and it's a very tough place to play in Death Valley. Next up, we got Georgia Tech versus Louisville, another ACC conference game. This game will be at 3:30 Eastern time on ESPN2. Louisville favored by 10 points, and the over and under is at 57.5. So this game is really close to me on upset alert, but not quite there because it's a 10-point spread. This will be a very tough game, though, for Louisville. I'm kind of surprised that this spread is not at a field goal, maybe like 4 points or less. Georgia Tech, I think, is going to come out really fired up in this one. Georgia Tech's already played 4 games. Louisville has just played 2 games. They had a bye week, of course, this past weekend, so they have enough time to kind of prepare for this running game of Georgia Tech. Now, Georgia Tech a couple weeks ago lost to Syracuse. Georgia Tech trying to bounce back here after their first loss in the ACC. They already beat Florida State, of course, in week number 0. I think Georgia Tech's going to definitely try to run the football in this game and wear down that Louisville defensive line, and also they're going to try to keep that Louisville offense off the field for as long as possible because the Cardinals offense has looked pretty good in the first 2 weeks of the season. I wonder how they'll do, though, against a really good Georgia Tech defense, but we'll find out. I wouldn't really be shocked here if we saw an upset. I mean, I think Louisville definitely is the better team here, but Georgia Tech is an underdog here. They probably will prove everyone wrong. They did that against Florida State, and they've already, pretty much done it in the first 4 weeks of the season for them. Remember, they've already played 4 games, and Louisville has just played 2. So Georgia Tech's played more football here than the Cardinals, but Louisville does have the home field advantage. Maybe that probably is because the reason why the spread is about 10 points. And that's why Louisville is probably favored in about 10 points in this game because they're playing at home. But this game will be at 3:30 Eastern time on ESPN2. again, I wouldn't be shocked here if we saw an upset. Georgia Tech going on the road and beating Louisville here on Saturday. Next up, we got Vanderbilt versus Missouri, 4:15 p.m. Eastern Time on the SEC Network. Missouri favored by 20.5 points, and the over and under is at 52.5. So this is kind of like similar to the Clemson and NC State game. Missouri coming off that win against Boston College. Even though they dropped down in the rankings, they were ranked number 6 for me last week, and I did have them in my upset alert video from last week. They were not on the upset alert, but they only won by 6 points against Boston College. Can they bounce back here and have a bigger win against a Vanderbilt team that has been pretty up and down? Vanderbilt got off that 2-0 start. They beat Virginia Tech in week 1. Then they beat Alcorn State in week number 2, but lost to Georgia State in week number 3. That was a disappointing loss here for the Condors, but it's not really often that we see this from Vanderbilt. I mean, obviously they lose like these cupcake games, even though they're a better, program than that other program either way. But Vanderbilt, they're heading into this game, their first SEC game. It will be on the road at Missouri. Missouri definitely should be able to take care of business. And I can see why the spread is about 20.5 points, because it's Vanderbilt, obviously the worst team in the SEC, but you never know. Vanderbilt probably just overlooked Georgia, State from last week, and they were probably focused on this Missouri team for the next weekend. So you never know. Vanderbilt might come out pretty fired up in this one, but I think at the end of the day, Missouri should definitely take care of business. I don't really expect an upset here to happen, but I got Missouri versus Vanderbilt anyway. Again, this game will be at 4:15 p.m. Eastern Time on the SEC Network. Then we go to our final game here that is least likely to be an upset. That is Miami and South Florida, 7 o'clock Eastern Time on ESPN. Miami favored by 16.5, and the over and under is at 65.5. Miami has been a pretty good team, in the first 3 games of the season. They'll head on the road here for pretty much the first time since that Florida game, from a couple weeks ago. South Florida actually was very competitive against, Alabama, another power forward team out of the SEC. So I actually wouldn't really be shocked here if South Florida actually was competitive for quite a while against this Miami team. But I like what Miami has done. Cam Ward is off to a pretty good start. Miami blew out Florida A&M and Ball State, of course, in a couple weeks in a row. And then he obviously had that big win over Florida, which is not a big win for them, but it's against another power forward team. So Miami is 3-0, the best team in the ACC as of right now. I don't really expect an upset here to happen. Miami definitely should go, should go out there and take care of business. But I'm telling you, this South Florida team, you never know what can happen here. We've seen South Florida compete against Alabama in the first half. Could they possibly compete here with Miami for all 4 quarters? I don't really think so. Miami's just got too much talented, players on this team. So I think Miami, I don't really expect an upset here. They're favored by 16.5. But again, this game will be at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. And again, it will be on Saturday. Miami favored by 16.5. So those are my 4 games that are least likely to be upsets heading into this weekend. Let's now get into the most likely upset alert games as we head into week number 4. We will start here with Illinois versus Nebraska. This game actually will be on Friday, so we're only about a couple days away from this game, and it will be at 8 o'clock Eastern Time on Fox. Nebraska favored by 8.5, and the over and under is at 43.5. Both of these teams ranked in the top 25. Both of these teams, I think, are pretty similar. Illinois has played really good defense so far, and then Nebraska has played pretty good offense so far. And Nebraska's defense also has been pretty good. You look at Illinois and Nebraska, though, they pulled off some, good wins over, like, Big 12 teams. For Illinois, it was against Kansas a couple weeks ago, and then Nebraska, of course, pulled off a huge win over Colorado. So, yeah, this is going to be a big game. This is a tough one here to predict. I would favor Nebraska, though, just because I think they're definitely the more well-coached team, and also they got the home field advantage, but that's a pretty high spread there. Nebraska favored by 8.5. I'm kind of surprised that it's not like at 4 points or less, but the over and under is at 43.5, so we're kind of not expecting a high-scoring game here, but I like what Nebraska's true freshman quarterback has done. He's already lived up to the college football, world. But this will be a very tough defense going up against this week. Illinois, like I said, has played really good defense so far. Their offense may not be really that good, but it's going to get better and better. And if Illinois can get better on the defensive side of the football and win games because of their defense, Illinois might be a dark horse team in the Big Ten. And I think this game probably decides that. Who could be that top dark horse team in the Big Ten coming up this year? But, you don't want to sleep on these other teams. Indiana, USC, those two teams are likely dark horse teams as well. But this one should be a good one. Illinois versus Nebraska, again at 8 o'clock Eastern time on Fox, and again it will be on Friday. And the over and under is at 43.5. Nebraska favored by 8.5 points. Next up, we got USC versus Michigan, another Big Ten versus Big Ten matchup, 3:30 Eastern time. This will be the 3:30 CBS game. USC favored by 5.5 points, and the over and under is at 46.5. USC coming out of a bye week after beating Utah State a couple weeks ago, and then they had that big win over LSU in week number 1. Michigan, on the other hand, struggled against Arkansas State this past weekend, and they also really struggled against Texas. Michigan has some issues on the offensive side of the football, but their defense has made the difference. The defense made the difference, of course, against Arkansas State. The defense, though, was really bad against Texas, and it was also, the difference in that Fresno State game in week number 1. So, yeah, Michigan's defense has been pretty good, and I think the game plan for Michigan in this game is to run the football because USC has a very explosive offense. They're going to try to go hurry up tempo, and USC is going to try to score on this Michigan team as much as they can. But USC, this will be their first kind of real test, ever since that LSU game, and this also will be their first road game of the season, so it will probably be really tough here for this USC team. But either way, I think this will be a really good game. Again, Michigan, they have the home field advantage. I think USC is a slightly better team just based off of the 3 weeks. Now, USC has only played 2 games, but USC, I think, is a little bit better than Michigan, but I wouldn't be really shocked here if Michigan pulled off the upset. But again, Michigan here, they're playing at home in this one, but USC is favored by 5.5. And this game will be on Saturday at 3:30 Eastern time on CBS. Next game, we got Utah versus Oklahoma State, 4 o'clock Eastern time on Fox. Utah favored by 1.5 points, and the over and under is at 51.5. This is probably the biggest game coming up this weekend besides maybe Oklahoma versus Tennessee. This is the biggest Big 12 conference game, pretty much in a long time here in the history of the conference. You look at Utah, played without Cam Rising, of course, from last week. As of this recording, I haven't really heard anything if he was going to be playing or not. And like I said in my playoff prediction video from yesterday, if Cam Rising does play in this game, I think Utah definitely might have a chance to win this one. But if he does not play, maybe Utah loses by a couple of touchdowns because Oklahoma State, I think, definitely has a clear advantage in this game. Not a clear advantage because of the roster and everything, because of the home field advantage. That's been the big advantage here for the Cowboys. But Oklahoma State played a really good game last week against, Tulsa and everything. Did not have any problems whatsoever. I mean, Alan Bowman played pretty well in that game. And Ollie Gordon III is a really tough running back to stop. So Utah here might have some, issues here going up against this running game of Oklahoma State. But in my opinion, this is probably the game of the weekend. I know we got Tennessee versus Oklahoma. I'll talk about that game in just a moment. But I think this is the biggest game of the weekend because Utah and Oklahoma State, these are 2 top 15 teams in the Big 12. And again, this game will be on Fox. And I thought College Game Day actually would go to this game, but they decided to go with the next game I'm going to get to in just a moment. But again, like I said, if Cam Rising does play for Utah, I think they'll have a chance to probably win this game. And if he does not play, I think Utah might lose by double digits. I mean, that's how I'm, predicting it, that I think it will go. But Oklahoma State here, they got a pretty good team. They got a good quarterback, and they also got a good running back and an offensive team. And they also have a very talented defense as well. This is going to be a really good game. It's a tough one to predict. I've been going back and forth on this game. I'll make a prediction, though, on this game coming up tomorrow. But again, this game will be at 4 o'clock Eastern time on Fox, and Utah's favored by 1.5. And then finally, we got Tennessee versus Oklahoma, 7:30 Eastern time on ABC. Tennessee favored by 7 points, and the over-and-under is at 57.5. So College Game Day, of course, is going to be down here for this game. Tennessee ranked in the top 10, Oklahoma ranked number 15, so this is a top 15 showdown in the SEC. And this is probably the biggest game coming up in the SEC as of right now, pretty much so far. You got Georgia and Alabama coming up next weekend, but this will be the biggest game coming up in the SEC for the first part. Tennessee, their first 3 games have been pretty easy for them. Tennessee crushed Kent State, of course, this past weekend, and then a couple weeks ago they blew out NC State. We thought that would kind of be a tough competition for Tennessee, but they haven't had a tough competition yet. This is the best offense in the country. And then Oklahoma, they got a pretty good defense. I kind of want to see how Tennessee plays against the Oklahoma defense here, and if Tennessee can, do what they have been doing in the last 3 games, they're going to win this game easily. But if Oklahoma can, run the football in this game and also waste the clock down and keep that Tennessee offense off the field for as long as possible, and if their defense can stop Tennessee on like big third downs or something like that, Oklahoma might win this game in a close one. But I can see why Tennessee is favored by a touchdown because of how they've been playing now for the last three weeks, in the first 3 weeks of the season, I should say. And Tennessee is definitely a really good team. This is a team that will go hurry-up tempo, especially on the offensive side of the football. The defense looks like it's a lot better as well. This game can probably go 2 different ways. It could be a high-scoring game, or it could be a low-scoring type game, depending on how both defenses play. But both of these teams come in at 3-0. This is Oklahoma's first SEC conference game as well, as a newcomer in the SEC. So this one should be a good one. Again, College Game Day, of course, going to go down here for this one. And again, it's at 7:30 Eastern time on ABC, and Tennessee's favored by 7. So those are my upset alert games heading into week number 4 of the 2024 college football season. Like I said, a lot of good games coming up this weekend, better than last weekend. Let me guys know what you think about these upset alert games. Who do you see getting upsetted this week? Let me know down in the comments below. Thanks for watching this video, and stay tuned here for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports YouTube channel.